dark. I build neat stuff. Occasionally, save the world.
I'm here on a mission.
Hello everybody, and welcome to my Iron Man 3 review. I'm a huge Marvel fan. I love all the Marvel movies. I've been waiting since like when the films first started coming out, The Incredible Hulk, all the way into the hint of the Avengers. And when the Avengers came out, I was absolutely ecstatic and over the moon, and I thought the film was brilliant. And the Marvel Cinematic Universe was just, it just felt like it was getting started. It was like, wow, they're actually putting the comics universe into film, and I was like really excited by that. And all the films up to Avengers have always been like I mean, they've got their flaws, but they've all been up to par with what I'd expect from like a comic book movie. Of course, Avengers just like dominated and did everything it was supposed to do, and it got third in the worldwide box office, and it's doing its job. Now, when it comes to Iron Man 3, the first film of Phase 2 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, it seems to just be taking it to a whole another place, a place that I don't like, and I'm sure a lot of comic book fans and maybe even general audience that are just watching the films, they probably don't like it either. I mean, Iron Man 3 is a good film, but I think it's just a bit too silly. It's just gone into another place, basically. Anyway, Iron Man 3 is based on the Extremis storyline from the comic books. The Extremis storyline is basically Maya Hansen, old friend of Tony Stark's. She builds a kind of super soldier virus, kind of like Captain America's super soldier serum, a super soldier kind of medicinal serum or something called Extremis, and she built it with Aldrich Killian, who's played by Guy Pearce in the film. Maya Hansen explains to Tony at some point in the comics that the Extremis virus goes in stages. The first stage, it basically it makes your whole body become an open wound, like your whole body an open sore, and then slowly you cocoon into a massive scabs all over your body. And during this process, all of your organs are becoming more, they're becoming renewed and becoming more powerful and like sort of getting extra powers, I guess you could say. And after this, the scabs heal themselves like you would in real life. The scabs fall off, and then you have the Extremis virus in you, and you're ready to rock, basically. And what it does, it gives you extra powers. It gives them super strength, super speed. It kind of makes people angrier in some sense, and it also allows you to breathe fire, which they tried to do with, I guess it was kind of a nod to the comics when Aldrich Killian breathed fire in the film. So basically that's the Extremis virus in the comics. In the film it was more like some red glowy thing that made you kind of fiery and ashy, and it gave you super strength, it gave you super speed in the film as well, but it was like only used once when Happy tried to punch that, I think, Malin in the film. I think he was supposed to be Malin in the film, and Malin just kind of dodged out of the way. But yeah, that's the only time I really noticed any super speed in the film, unless I need to watch it again. But yeah, I don't mind the changes to the Extremis virus in the film. I understand it, though I didn't really like the effects of it, with all the red lights and the lighting effects. It just didn't look realistic enough for my liking. Also, I didn't really like how they didn't explain the Extremis. Like they didn't explain it very well. I mean, Aldrich Killian kind of explained it to Pepper in his office, and with that light show of his little three balls, and it just didn't really make any sense to me. He just said, "Oh, there's some stuff going on in your brain, this part of the brain here," and that's it. Like, it didn't really go into detail. When Maya explained it in the comics, you could understand exactly what she was talking about. You just knew what they were talking about in the comic. In the film, it just, it didn't really do it for me, the explanation. Now, the thing that really got me, that really annoyed me from the film, was the fact that Tony's Extremis Tony didn't even have Extremis. Like, he just injected some crap into his arms and some like chips into his arms that allowed him to drag the armor closer to him. Now, I didn't really like that. I wanted him to alter the Extremis like he did in the comic books, you know, and make it used for him. It would have made more sense. He would have used the Extremis storyline more, but he just made these chips. He didn't even go into detail talking about the chips. In fact, I didn't even know like what those chips were until after the film, when I've read around this in forums and explained what they were exactly. Like he just injected them. There was no explanation about them, and it didn't make any sense how he was controlling this. Like, I mean, I guess the chips were connected to the Mark 42. Is it Mark 42? I think it's a Mark 42, the main suit of the film, and you could like control it with his mind and like put it on Pepper or however. I wasn't even sure how he was controlling it. If it was with his, I'm guessing with his mind and his senses, like a second arm. They really should have done like a nice little expositional dialogue about how he's using the Mark 42, and that was a missed opportunity, I think. I didn't like the jokes. There was way too many jokes in the film. It just went a bit overboard. Like, I know Tony Stark is a jokey type character, and he's always kind of a bit obnoxious, but in a lovable kind of way. But it just wasn't working in this film. It was just a bit too much for me, and like it just like took away from the intensity and the fear or like the worry for the characters. Like he was just making, like when he was fighting that redhead chick with the Extremis virus in her, she was just like, she was about to kill him and he was just cracking one-liners and stuff. It just didn't, like, your life is under threat here and you're just cracking one-liners. It just didn't look right to me. I know Tony Stark is an eccentric. Like, it was believable when he invited the Mandarin to his house and gave him his home address. Tony Stark would do something like that. Like, but I don't think under immediate attack would he start making one-liners. It just didn't seem right to me. Also, when he was in the warehouse and he was escaping from Mandarin, quote-unquote, his thugs, or Adrian Killian's thugs rather, one of the thugs, after he beat half of them up, one of them was like, oh, I don't even know these guys. Like, these guys are weird. I'm out of here or something. That was just stupid. I don't know, it just didn't seem realistic to me. It just took me out of the film again. Like, I thought this film was going to be a lot darker. I mean, I know they were still going to have comedy elements, but they say it's a lot darker. I can see the darkness in some parts of the films, like Tony's post-traumatic stress disorder from the Avengers, from the going through the black wormhole thing in the Avengers. I could see like he's having nightmares. He couldn't sleep. He was having these little panic attacks and stuff. That was all great stuff, but it was all ruined by all the jokes that came right after them. It just kind of killed it. I know Tony Stark uses, well, his character could be interpreted that he uses jokes as a defense mechanism, but it just didn't seem realistic enough to me. It just kind of took out all the good plot and all the good storyline of Tony's post-traumatic stress and his dealing with gods and dealing with aliens, and just kind of just turned it all into a big joke. It felt like he was watching a movie. I didn't want to feel like I was watching a movie. I wanted to feel like I was viewing Tony Stark's life, basically, in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I know that sounds kind of deep, but it would have been nicer to kind of immerse myself into it like that, but rather than just be like, oh, I'm watching a Hollywood-produced movie by Shane Black, you know? Then we go on to The Mandarin. The Mandarin... yeah, I'm going to spoil this. The Mandarin is ridiculous. Like, all the adverts, all the commercials or rather, or all the trailers, all the marketing pointed to the Mandarin is going to be the bad Tony Stark's arch nemesis. He's going to be Iron Man's Joker. He was going to be the guy to take Iron Man to the next level, Tony Stark to the next level. Like, he was going to, like, compliment Tony Stark and bounce off him to make a great rivalry. And then what did they do? They just completely just butcher the crap out of him. They got him and they just turned him into this idiot, into this loser called Trevor who's making jokes and just saying, "Oh, I'm an actor. I'm an actor, mate. Oh, whatever." Like, I'm not really the Mandarin. I'm just some dude. Like, I worked for Adric Killian or whatever. I wasn't even paying attention to his dialogue, so I was pissed off at that point. Like, I was really looking, like, when they introduced the Mandarin at the start, with all his little threat videos and everything, he was actually quite scary. The whole thing with the president, and when he threatened the president, and when he shot one of the president's guys in the head, or actually fake shot him in the head, but when it looked like it was real, and he shot the guy in his head, he looked like a serious character. He looked way above. He was already from those little clips. He was way above Whiplash or Mickey Rourke Whiplash. He was way above Obadiah Stane's Ironmonger. He was already a boss at that stage, and then they just went and fucked him up. Like, with that Trevor shit. I know that some people like it. I've seen some people think it's funny, or some people think it was quite clever. It was like commentary on like Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein, and how they have like their secret actor doubles and stuff like that. Though I'm pretty sure Saddam Hussein and bin Laden's actor doubles aren't. They don't joke around and start watching Liverpool versus whoever when there's a gun pointed to their head. You know, that just the scene where Rhodey was pointing his gun to the Trevor's head, and he was just like not even caring. He was trying to watch the football. Like, that was just ridiculous to me. It was just like, you're not even scared of a gun, and it just took me out of it completely. And like, one of the worst moments was when, like, Pepper supposedly had died and fallen into fire, and obviously the audience aren't stupid enough. They know she's probably been infected with the Extremis and she had survived the fall and the fire. But Tony didn't know that. Tony didn't expect her to be infected, and he was just like, kind of just normal. Like, it didn't even faze him. I mean, he had a little look in his eye that he was a bit upset, but then he just kind of, I know it was obviously it was in a fight, he had to concentrate on the fight, but he didn't even look that angry or that pissed off at all. And then what really killed it was when at this point he still thinks Pepper's dead, and the Mark 42 is flying into him. It's like the prodigal son returns. That was alright. And then when the Mark 42 broke and smashed up, I think that was part of his plan, but he was like, oh, whatever. Like, I don't know, the way he just said whatever, just all obnoxious, and like, dude, your girlfriend, your love of your life has just died, and now all of a sudden you're like, whatever. Like, I don't know, it just didn't seem right to me. It just didn't look realistic enough for me. Like, it just took me out completely. Like, I wasn't believing in the story like I believed in Iron Man 1 and even Iron Man 2. It makes me laugh to bits when people try and compare this film to The Dark Knight Rises or The Dark Knight. Now, I'm a Marvel fan. Like, I mean, if I had to be a fanboy, I love both Marvel and DC, but if I had to be a fanboy and someone said pick one of them, I'd make mine Marvel. You know, like, so no one can try and call me a DC fanboy here, but you can't compare Iron Man 3 to The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, I guess you can compare it in a sense where Tony wasn't really in his armor much, and Tony wasn't really like Iron Man much in this film. But Dark Knight Rises actually had depth, had realism. It had Bane. Like, people say they didn't like Bane. Like, they're comparing how the Mandarin was butchered to how Bane was quote unquote butchered. But I don't think Bane was butchered. At least he was a villain. At least he was a threat. At least the marketing didn't lie to you and make you believe he was a threat, and then it turns out he actually wasn't, and some subpar bad guy was. So Bane was actually a really good threat, a really good villain for Batman. He took him to his limits. He broke his back. He really put Batman down. But Iron Man, like, Adric Killian didn't even have that much motivation. Like, I don't really know what his motivation was. What, because Tony Stark left him on the roof like 13 years ago? Like, I don't understand. Like, what? He left you on a roof one night, and then all of a sudden you decide to create a virus and try and kidnap his girlfriend and try and ruin his life because he left you on a roof one night. Okay, that's believable. It's just all a bit silly, and then it's really killing the whole cinematic universe for me. Like, I'm hoping Thor is a lot better, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do next in Phase 2 after Thor of Captain America. I hope they take the films more seriously. What I did like about the films, though, before I end this, I loved the action. The action was amazing, breathtaking. Like, people said there wasn't enough action. I thought there was enough action. It's just the in-between parts the parts where they should be dwelling the story, like developing people like Maya Hansen's character, who I thought was wasted, and Adric Killian's character, who I thought was kind of pointless and didn't even do. I mean, obviously he was the main bad guy, but I didn't feel anything about him. And the Mandarin's character was completely and utterly wasted. People think he was a good thing, but it was just a waste of time, in my opinion. And Rhodey was okay, I suppose. Like, actually, to talk about Rhodey, his scenes were very silly as well. Rhodey's scenes, when he was Iron Patriot, rather, like, I like the banter between him and Tony about the Iron Patriot thing, like the War Machine Iron Patriot name. But Rhodey and fighting these terrorists and making jokes, cracking jokes about his username in front of all these Islamic terrorists, I think they were, was just so fake and silly and just took me out again. But yeah, anyway, I enjoyed the action. It was a fun movie when it came to the action and the fights. Even though a lot of people didn't like the last fight with all the robots, I liked what they did with it. Like, I guess what they could do with it, they could have done a bit more. They could have used the Hulkbuster armor a bit more. But for what it was worth, the action was good. I did like the ending where they removed Iron Man's chest piece, because at least that's close to the comics. Like, at some point during the comics, he did remove the chest piece, or whatever you want to call it in the comics, to stop the shrapnel. He removed the shrapnel from his chest. That was good, though he didn't like destroy all his armors and retire from being Iron Man. Though I'm pretty sure everyone knows that Tony Stark, Iron Man, will return. Like, even said it at the end of the credits, Tony Stark will return, but this time without the chest piece, which is very close to the comics, which is good. But after the credits scene, I heard rumours he was going to space. No, he was just talking to Bruce Banner, like, the whole time about his situation with Adric Killian and the Mandarin, quote unquote. Yeah, it was just having a little therapy session with Bruce Banner. That was kind of lame. It could have been something a lot better, something that alluded to Avengers 2 or something, but no, just a little conversation with Bruce Banner, which is pretty lame. But yeah, I'd give the film like a 6 out of 10 probably, just for the action and everything. But yeah, the plot was nice, but there's too many. But yeah, I just didn't like the comedy. It was just way too much comedy. A bit too much. Not like Avengers. Avengers comedy was nice, nicely done, but this was just a bit too OTT for me. Yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed my review. Love to see some comments. Thanks. Hey, I really hope you enjoyed my review, and I'd really appreciate it if you check out one of these machinima trailers here. We could check out both. The Saints Row 2 machinimas of the Iron Man 3 and the Iron Man 2 trailers respectively. Yeah, they're fun watch. Check them out, comment, subscribe. What you gotta do. Bye bye.